Woo! What's up, y'all? Happy Monday! Welcome back to the Call to Action Network, hanging out with us on this Monday night on Chill to Action. You know me, it's your girl Danny Joy here, hanging out with my favorite co-host, Mr. Paul Denuzio.
Oh, you said that enough. You're still stumbling over it, though. Are you trying to say something?
I will never get this intro right. Paul, how many times have we done the show?
I believe this is 41, 41st time, perhaps, maybe 42.
This is coming close. It's about that many. And still, to this day, I have never been able to land that intro or the outro. There's just no,
You're getting close.
That's the glory of this show. It's all fun. It's all good. It's always live.
It is. It's always live. And that's how live works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we can't take takes.
It's true. It's me, it's PLD. I'm happy to be here. I love talking to Schmoedown competitors and Schmoedown people so much. I especially love when they're from the Star Wars division because that's my division. I love myself from Star Wars. Big time fan. So I can't wait to introduce who we have on tonight. But I'll let you do that, Danny, because it's your show. You know, you're the host, the lead. So
it's our show, Paul. We do this together. This is our sweet little love child.
No, that's true.
Right. That's right, y'all. Ooh, if you saw that wonderful thumbnail by Mr. Jake Yakavetta, then you know dang well who we got coming on to the show tonight. We have the one, the only, the luminous, the wonderful, the spectacular, the one, the only Miss
Lights Out.
The Lights Out. Laura Kelly.
Woohoo!
What's up, friends? You don't need to argue about whose show it is because it's my show now. Welcome.
Look at the dark side coming out. I love it. I love this turn of events.
Yeah.
You're making your manager proud, that's for sure.
When corruption comes on, they definitely take over. It's insane.
I was ready to come on here and make fun of you guys for both drinking White Claws, but I see that Paul's got something else there. What do you got tonight there?
I got the Jack Daniels. I either do Jameson or Jack Daniels. The girls like to do the White Club, but I never was able to be converted into that. I got to stick with the hard stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I got a nice white blend, some wine from South Africa. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, now we got a lot from the different spectrums of the alcohol spectrum. We're very well diverse.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Yes. That is the diversity that matters.
We're talking about the alcohol diversity. That's not much, but we are trying to do our best.
Yeah.
She throws up there right away. Got our first super chat of the night. Movie Fanobi, we have a good friend. Great guest. Laura's one of my favorite Star Wars competitors. I'd like to see Laura Andrew in the final. Damon versus Damon is a nice storyline, but Laura rocks.
Thank you very kindly. That's awesome.
Yes, Laura Kelly, it's been amazing to watch you play inside of the Schmoedown. And it's been nice to see you kind of really get through this. So, Laura, we always like to ask our guests the first question of the night, and that's always why Schmoedown? What got you into the Schmoedown? What kept you into the Schmoedown? All of that good, great stuff.
What got me into the Schmoedown really stemmed from the Star Wars Celebration 5-way competition, and I was in the early stage, not really early stages, I guess. We were in the late stages of getting ready to launch a Star Wars podcast, me and my co-host Alice, and saw that they were going to be doing a Schmoedown competition at Celebration. We had seen the Schmoedown competitions before. I got into it thanks to Sam Witwer and Freddie Prinze Jr., the Force Bros, playing some of those early Star Wars matches. I was super into those.
Yeah.
And when I saw the chance to be able to compete, I had seen the competition that took place at Celebration 2017. And I remember watching it and thinking, I can do this, so I need to do this. And when I replied to Christian Harloff's tweet saying that they were doing a Celebration competition, I did not expect him to respond, but he GM'd me fairly quickly and said that he had a spot open. So that's kind of where it all started for me. And I don't think it was supposed to be anything. I don't think they knew what to expect from me. I don't think they expected anything. I don't think I was supposed to come in and do as well as I did, but I was very happy with how I performed that day, and it snowballed from there.
Awesome. So you were there in person in 2017 Celebration?
In 2017, I was there. I did not see the competition. That was my first Celebration. And, when you're at your first Celebration, you have no idea what you're doing, and you're just wandering around aimlessly. And if you pretend like you know what you're doing. You get up at the ass crack of dawn and you go to the early panels, and then you pass out at 2:00 in the afternoon. And that's what I did. So I didn't even know that they were doing a Schmoedown competition there. All I was there for was like the Rebels panel, and I didn't care about anything else. And so but I watched it later, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, I had no idea that they were even there. What the hell? So that was my intro to it, but I didn't get to see it live in person that year, unfortunately, because I was probably asleep.
That's all. That was my first celebration too, and I went to the 40th anniversary panel and loved that. But I was like, I'm getting old. I can't sleep out overnight for the episode 8 panel, so I went.
Oh God, isn't it awful? Like I didn't go to the 40th anniversary. I went to the Last Jedi and I went to Rebels, and I didn't have a ticket for whatever day. I think it was Thursday that the 40th anniversary happened.
That's awesome. Okay, Buck. $5. PLD better be wearing a Star Wars shirt. I'll be judging you hardcore. I know. I didn't even think about it. I don't have my Star Wars shirt on. I almost always wear a Star Wars shirt. Like almost all my, like at least 3/4 of my t-shirt collection is Star Wars. And I didn't wear it today. I'm judged. I feel myself judged, but that's okay.
I have never forced Paul to come in a uniform for the show, but maybe I should implement that rule.
Must be nice. I have to show up in a uniform everywhere I go. But fortunately, I have lots of uniforms. I have lots of Star Wars representation in my wardrobe, so I'm good to go.
There you go.
Exactly. So my favorite stuff. All right. Well, you've been in the league for a little bit now. You've been definitely getting better each time you come out. You seem more convinced. Now, the question I had is that you showed a little bit of Christian called you out at one point for being a little less confident. Like in your match, you kind of that promo before Spectacular where you seemed a little like, oh, I don't know if I could beat Alex Damon and everything else. You went to Spectacular, you put on a hell of a match. Don't quite beat him, but hey, it's the Demon. But then you came back, and this time, ever since you were drafted by Shannon Barney Corruption, it's like you made a 180, and you just appear more confident than I've ever thought you possibly could after your first interview. What was it that made you flip that switch?
Well, so getting drafted by Corruption was a big factor. I wasn't expecting it at all. When the draft was happening, I was like almost fully tuned out of everything because I coming off of of the Spectacular, I was hardcore bumming, like that was rough. And people kept telling me like, hey, at least you didn't get like knocked out. You can get TKO'd. So that's good. And I'm like, that's not good enough for me. That's not what I define as a solid performance. So I was super disappointed. And even, kind of leading up to this, the announcement of this tournament, I was still kind of like, I don't know, like there probably isn't going to be anything Star Wars until later this year. And now the whole year is up in the air because of all this, coronavirus stuff. So I kind of didn't know what to expect, but I think once it got announced, it was really kind of a quick thing where I had to get my ass in gear and I had to make sure that I wasn't coming out here and letting down this team that was now depending on me, for in whatever fashion, whether it just be for points or just to not look like an idiot up on the stage. Like I just needed to that idea. I think the pressure of having, a team and having that group behind you, kind of being dependent on you is a huge factor for me. So I was excited to switch it up this year and kind of come out swinging in a different fashion. And I'm really happy with how it's going so far. And I'm a different player this year, not only in kind of the attitude that I'm trying to present, but also in my knowledge. I have been brushing up on quite a lot of new information and in spots that I know are weak spots for me, and where I know where I have gaps in my knowledge. And, at this point, I look back and I'm just like, how in the hell did I think that I could get up there and go up against him at that point where I was sort of in my knowledge base? And I feel much more confident overall in the things that I've picked up since then. So I'm excited to kind of see where this road goes.
Well, so far so good, that's for sure. Yeah, you've had a match in the tournament, and you pretty much show exactly where you stand. So
I think what's also super amazing about that whole thing is that like you haven't been necessarily like into Star Wars as long as a lot of other people that are super into Star Wars have been, because it wasn't until fairly recently that you started getting into Star Wars, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. So I wasn't really a Star Wars fan it really didn't get involved in like the fandom and stuff until about like 2015. At that point, I had seen The Phantom Menace. Like I saw it when I was a kid. I think it was like probably the summer after it came out, because it was like one of those like $2 movies or something you could go see in the summer. And I remember seeing it and being like, what the hell is this? And like really kind of, it didn't really, you know, connect with me then. And it wasn't until I saw the trailer for The Force Awakens and I had like that weird sort of like out of body experience where you're like in a room surrounded by people and like something happens on the TV and it's just you in the room with the TV and what's happening on screen. And there's nothing, everything else just like melts away and disappears. And it just like sucked me in that like crazy way and just hasn't ever let go. And it sort of led from, you know, wanting to sort of get prepared to go see The Force Awakens when it came out and watching all the movies leading up to that. And then I got into Star Wars Rebels, and that's what really kind of hooked me. And that's what brought me into like Star Wars Twitter, where I needed to find a community to talk about this show that I loved, that nobody in my family understood why I loved it because it was a kid's show. And like they still don't understand. And I still have like mystified several of my friends being like, and it was on Disney XD and for the really little kids. And I'm like, yes, yes, it was.
Yes.
No judgment. Drink the drink.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm so glad that it's on like Disney Plus now, so that people like, I every time that I see that people are watching Star Wars Rebels and they like tweet about it and they're like, how did I not know about this show? I'm just like, yes, another one of my people's here. I'm so happy. I love that it's like getting spread around like wildfire now.
I love hearing you say that, because there obviously I don't want to get into too deep, but there's some toxicity in the Star Wars fandom, as obviously. But like, as someone who there might be just a little bit.
Yeah, there is.
Didn't know
As
that.
someone who has grown up, I grew up like the first movie I ever saw in the theaters was Empire Strikes Back. That's how old I am. I'm an older guy, obviously. But I mean, I went through the original trilogy. I stayed in line, stayed up overnight, slept over at my local mall to get tickets for the Phantom Menace. But I love that every new generation is still finding ways to bring new people into the fold, and people who get so committed, like yourself, that go back and watch everything. It's just, I don't think there's any other franchise that has ever brought, as much as the toxicity has hit, it still has brought more people together than any other franchise in the history of film and even sci-fi fantasy, as far as I'm concerned. So I love that is the case. And have you had any cases where that, like, you've met older fans, like people who love the OT, people who love the PT, and you've been able to have that kind of interesting connection, seeing where you came from you came from the ST, so to speak, the sequel to the Disney era. Have you had any experiences that are good, bad, anything you'd like to bring up?
You know, I really haven't had anything bad. And I think that that's a huge fear when any fan, like any Star Wars fan meets another Star Wars fan out in the wild. They're like, oh God, like, how is this going to go? Like, this can go one of a few ways. You can immediately start bashing the prequels. Mm-hmm. You can immediately start bashing The Last Jedi. Or you can just like make fun of me for being a girl and not actually know anything and start quizzing me, making me think, because you think that unless I know Star Wars trivia, I can't be a real Star Wars fan. So, you know, it really can just go one of those few ways. And I'm really happy to say that I really haven't encountered that often. I kind of expect it whenever I like see someone on the wild that's like wearing a Star Wars shirt, and then I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt. I'm like, when you're like passing by and you're like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And it actually one time when I was down in like the South Loop here in Chicago, I was just out for a walk and I had on I have those orange Sperry's that have the Rebel Starbird symbol on them. And I was walking by and some dude like tapped me on the shoulder, like as I was walking through a crosswalk, and he's like, hey, I like your shoes. And I was like, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for not being a dick for no reason. I appreciate that. I just like, it's just one of those things when you're a Star Wars fan, like you just have to expect it. I mean, like, even now, like when I'm scrolling through TikTok, if I see that somebody's like about to do some kind of Star Wars something, I'm just kind of like,
oh boy,
what's it going to be? Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. And it's funny watching. I mean, as someone, like I said, who grew up, like I feel like I was there during the prequel wars when they basically people hated the prequels when they came out for not being the original trilogy, and watching the same people now are like bashing the sequel trilogy, and all of a sudden they turn around and love the prequels for what it's like. Where is it? Like, why, what is going on here? Why? I just love what you love. It's all Star Wars. You don't have to love everything, but just it's there. Enjoy it. be nice to each other, be kind to each other.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see kind of where it's evolved and who is making movies now. Like when you look at J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson and Gareth Edwards, and you see these people who are, I mean, I think we obviously know that J.J. Abrams is an OT fan, and you can see what kind of movies a person who is an OT fan makes. And I will just be really curious to be like maybe 10, 20 years in the future and see what kind of Star Wars movies are being made by people who grew up and were shaped by the prequels. I will be really, really interested to see how the fandom evolves and how it grows and how movie making evolves when those people are the ones that are growing up and becoming, the sort of major directors in the Hollywood space. And hopefully that brings in more diversity, but we know that it'll bring in sort of a different mindset if they're coming from, if they grew up with the prequels as their Star Wars. I'm excited to see where it goes. This Star Wars fandom is so fun, and it can be really, I know that it can be really toxic, but it can be really fun and really enjoyable. And it's a community that I desperately needed when I, first fell in love with the fandom, because I just wasn't ever surrounded by, I didn't have, my parents aren't really super nerdy. My siblings really aren't, they don't really get it. Like, even most of my like IRL friends kind of aren't. So I'm the oddball out. So things like Star Wars Celebration, things like Star Wars Twitter, like that's where I find my people. And, that's where I can feel normal for a little while, to be honest.
Nice.
What is normal?
Right? God.
So you've been doing Star Wars bar trivia for quite some time now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was kind of shortly after Star Wars Celebration, probably, that I kind of started poking around in that realm here in Chicago. So that would have been like 2017, that approximately when that started. And then I met Alice, who hosts my show with me, and she and I met the week after The Last Jedi came out. And we had been like sort of going around the circuit of bars who were doing Star Wars trivia because the movie had just come out and the theme trivias were everywhere. And yeah, that's how we met and teamed up. And it went from there. The whole idea of we should do a podcast. And I was like, no. And then I was like, yes, we should.
Yes, we should. And I am a big fan of Force Toast. It is a very fun podcast. It's a bi-weekly podcast, which is great. And sad, because sometimes I just want to hear your voice.
Thank you so much. That's really nice of you. I appreciate you listening.
No, it's definitely a great podcast. So anyone who hasn't heard it, please go out there and listen to it. So where did this idea for Force Toast come from? Just from doing bar trivia with each other?
Yeah, it definitely stemmed from there, because we would go around and, we had all these like winnings from winning at trivia, and we would just kind of sit around at, different bars, like these restaurant groups would give out gift cards for their other restaurants. And so we'd go to those and split a bottle of wine. And I'm sure it was like our first or second like friend date where Alice was like, we would talk about like Star Wars podcasts and which ones we listen to, which ones we like, why we like them. And she was like, we should do a Star Wars podcast. And I was like, no, we shouldn't, because there are too many of them. We've discussed how many there are, and I don't really think we need to contribute to the noise. And then, but it's one of those things where like you start thinking about it and you're like, well, here's what I would do differently. And here's where I think we could be doing something that isn't already being done. And here's where I think, it seems like our voices are missing, because there aren't a ton of women in their 30s who are single, who like to drink, who do Star Wars trivia. Like that's kind of a weird, random thing that we could put out there in the universe and just see what happens. And it kind of just evolved from us sitting around getting drunk and talking about Star Wars.
Very true. That's a very good point you bring up. You have definitely more unique voices in there. I mean, I started my own YouTube channel recently, and I threw a Star Wars thing together for a little bit when the Clone Wars came out. Then I kind of stopped it recently because I knew that, again, like you said, there's so many podcasts out there. I wasn't adding anything unique. So I was like, I'm going to shut this down, and maybe I'll come back with something when I figure out something else. But I do like that we have different generations now. You're presenting a female side of things, the sequel trilogy side of things, as first thing. So it's great to have that voice out there. That's why I do commend you for that. I think it's awesome that you're representing in that fashion. So.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. And I've been really surprised with sort of how quickly it's grown. And, we've had it going for a little over a year now. We had like our 1 year anniversary in February, and yeah, we're really happy with like the numbers we're seeing and sort of the, you know, the number of followers we have on Twitter always seems to be growing, and it's great. You know, we're really happy with how it's going, and it's so fun because it's a great creative outlet for me, because I have a journalism degree that I don't really use, and so this is kind of the one thing where I get to spend some time writing, and I get to, you know, like really sort of put some of those skills to use, and it's been great. I'm really enjoying it, you know, and it's sort of the thing that got me into the Schmoedown when I was just like, oh, my friend and I have a podcast. Like, it's not out there yet, but we have one. It's coming. And we do trivia. And is that cool? Is that good enough? And they were just like, sure.
Come on in, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
That's my impression of Christian Harloff. I don't know if you could tell.
Oh, that was spot on. That was definitely it. Yeah, that sounded just like
impeccable.
Yeah. It definitely sounded like a little New York. Like, that was perfect.
Yeah, it's totally the best New York accent that you could ever hear.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. No, the podcast is a very great show to listen to, especially for someone like me who I feel like I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I came into the Star Wars game very late. So as someone who doesn't necessarily know the entire world of Star Wars, your podcast definitely breaks down the news and everything coming in a way that I very much enjoy, especially like the book part of it. Like, you guys talk, like, especially like your last episode, it was very book heavy. So I very much enjoy stuff like that. So great content on there.
Thank you. I appreciate. Yeah, we get that a lot. That people are like, you know, I really do not have time to read all these books. So it's kind of nice that you guys do this recap segment where you talk about them, and I can kind of get in the know. And thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And we really do try to have a lot of fun with it and kind of keep it light and loose and fun and silly.
Yeah, I did the same thing with the Clone Wars rewatch that you all did, like when you were recapping the seasons. Like, I use that to just kind of cheat my way through Clone Wars.
Oh, that's amazing. God, that was like one of the most fun segments for me, like that we've ever done. And I think part of it was because so much of it was scripted that we would like have our notes sort of in front of us while we were talking, like much more so when we're just kind of like free flying on our show. Like our notes for the recaps it was a lot more scripted, and I had so much fun preparing for those Clone Wars episodes. So thank you. That really means a lot that you say that. I really appreciate that.
No, I really did enjoy those very much.
That's all right. I'm gonna ask the question now. Everybody asks the Star Wars fans. I always ask that. What watch order do you watch the movies on?
Ooh, okay. So I guess my question is, what's the circumstance? Like, just what's my general preference? What do I recommend to a new watcher, or what do I do for studying for trivia?
It's true. It's actually true. You bring it up because it is true for everybody. I guess the first thing I'd ask would be, of somebody who's never watched it before, where would you go?
I would go release order.
Me too. I think that's the best way to do it because everything is based on it, right? Like, you have the things are there. But okay. Now, what about? I'm interested to hear you brought up one I never really thought about, trivia. For as far as trivia goes, what order do you watch it though?
So my order for trivia is completely random, and it's never the same. So I make myself a schedule. Sort of, you know, at this point, I'm kind of one movie a day is where I'm at in the process, and there is no rhyme or reason whatsoever to it. If I had to say that it's anything, it's probably a little bit of like, this is a movie I really like watching. This is a movie I maybe don't like as much. It's not one of my favorites. This movie I really like, and it goes every other one kind of in that order. But also sometimes like I try to then sometimes like reverse it. Like after my first match, now I'm kind of going backwards because I'm like, all right, well, I had studied The Phantom Menace most like at the farthest back in the schedule during the last match. So maybe I end with that this time. So it's a little bit more fresh, like that kind of thing. So it's totally random. It really is. It's out of control.
Okay. Then I'll ask the third one then. Like, if you just not for trivia, not for anything else, but you want to watch it in some kind of chronological order, but you want to watch it, would you still watch it release order, or is there a different order you would watch it now?
I would probably go chronological. Yeah, just for fun. I mean, if it was just me and there was no one else that was involved in it, I would probably just start chronological and go in that order, just because it's kind of fun to see things, I don't know, evolve in that order. You're kind of like, oh, what if they had done it this way? And then you're like, no, that's not an option. That's not real.
Have you ever tried the machete order? The famed machete order?
So I'm like I don't think so because I'm not super familiar with exactly what that is. Like I know I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you the actual sequence of it. I know that like do you go back to prequels in the middle of the OT? That's how it worked, right?
It's 4-5. It's basically how it just says you go 4-5, and then at the end of 5, you act as after the Vader reveal. You do like 1, 2, and 3 as a flashback. So you see Anakin fall, and then you go back to 6 to have the final finale, and it kind of like keeps the Leia reveal a little bit. It keeps the Vader fresh, but you get to see that how Anakin fell. It's a very interesting concept. The sequel trilogy just throw at the end now because it wasn't there when the machete thing was made or whatever. But it's a very interesting way to do it if you ever took a chance to do it that way. It's kind of different things. You see different things in different fashions. So I liked it quite a bit. So I try to do that now.
Yeah, I like it.
So very cool.
That would be the way that I would introduce it to like my nieces and nephews. Like if they wanted to get into Star Wars, that would be the way that I would introduce it to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like it. Have you? How old are they approximately?
Oh my goodness, they're 15 and 14. No, I'm sorry, 15 and 16.
Gotcha. So they're like too old for the Galaxy of Adventure type of stuff and whatnot. Yeah. I love that they're making those. I think those are so fun. I love that it's like this little like minute and 30-second thing that's like this great little way to get like really little kids into it. Like, yeah. And I just think that they're cute. I think the animation's beautiful. So I love that kind of stuff. But no, that's cool. If they're older, then like, and they can like actually grasp and have the attention span to sit and watch, you know, movies like that. I totally get that. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, and then especially because like it's the whole thing like with the reveal of Luke and Leia like towards the end, I feel like that would be a fun thing to hold back for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. There is an order that says you can skip episode 1 because it's not as important to the saga. I always watch episode 1 because there's enough cool stuff in it for me to like. I like Darth Maul. I don't want to skip
How could you skip episode 1? Miss Darth Maul and like Duel of the Fates and Liam Neeson. Like, what the?
That's what I say too. I go.
To each their own, I suppose. But like, Jesus.
But
I say that as the person who saw the Phantom Menace when they were like 11 years old and was just like, meh. But like, you know. We all grow and evolve. So.
Yeah, but I think now going back, looking at it, especially not having like super nostalgic ties to it, I think it's understandable to see why the Phantom Menace is important to this entire franchise with the whole Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn.
Well, also, if you think about it, have you watched The Mandalorian behind the scenes reel, the Star Wars gallery thing? Where,
I'm way behind on Star Wars gallery. I just haven't had time. I mean, like my whole thing is like I have to like study at and I have a fucking full-time job that sucks, and I have to like, you know, it just sucks. Like I can't keep up with with the Disney gallery stuff. I think I've seen 2 episodes of it. Right. Whatever one where Dave Filoni goes on the 10-minute rant about the Phantom Menace. That's the most recent thing.
That's the important one I'm talking about as far as this related to this conversation. Got it. Is that Dave Filoni does have that big long diatribe about how that Duel of Fates means for the whole saga, and like I love watching that because I love like all the directors are there and they're all like hanging on his like last word, like, wow.
Like, can you imagine being in the room? I'd be like,
and he's like, you know, oh, did I go on too much? And they're like, no, go, keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So let me ask this then. Now that you start with the Disney era as a thing, what's your favorite Star Wars film? Do you have
Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie.
It is. Okay, very cool.
It is.
I very much enjoyed that movie.
I did too.
I loved it. It's because here's my thing. For me, it was kind of my first full experience as a Star Wars fan. Like when The Force Awakens came out, I was too afraid to go see it opening night with all the hardcore fans. Like I was just like, I'm not there yet. But I was excited to see it. So I saw it like I think the following weekend or something. But for Rogue One was the first one where like I was hanging on every word on Twitter, every leak, every spoiler that came out. Like I was just like enthralled from start to finish. I was so excited. And I that was the first one that I saw like opening night with my friends, like got a big group to go see it in theaters. And I remember like, I was like crying in the theater because it was so good. And it was like so emotional, special at the end. And at one point I like looked over, my sister had like showed up to the movie and it was like, because it got released around the holidays, right? So she'd come from her work holiday party She was extremely champagne drunk. She like fell asleep in the middle of the movie. And at one point, I think she was sitting a couple people down from me. I woke up, she like woke up at the very end and I was like sitting there crying. And she wakes up and just bursts out laughing because Admiral Radis was on the screen. And she's like, why is that guy's eyeballs on his shoulders? Like, and just like really loudly. And it was just like, I mean, it was just like one of the freaking funniest like full circle experiences of my life of getting to see that movie kind of get like watching the process of it like get made via Twitter and then seeing the full thing kind of come together with, you know, my big group of friends and seeing that random thing happen where she was just like, it burst out laughing at Admiral Radis. Like it was just fantastic. I mean, the whole experience start to finish was great. And it's just a great movie. It's a great, it's a fantastic war movie. I love that it's a little bit darker. It's maybe a little bit more adult than some of the other movies, given that everyone just kind of like kicks to the bucket at the end. And you know, the Vader scene at the end, I just freaking love. Like, I remember being so thrilled, and it's one of those that the whole experience is really kind of what made it my favorite Star Wars film. I think, but I just love it. It's great.
That's awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about Star Wars. I'm going to get into the next segment pretty soon, but I do want to ask one question back to the Schmoedown. We have seen Alex Damon make the jump from Star Wars to Inner Geekdom. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you have ever thought? Is there any other? Are you well versed in other Inner Geekdom fandoms at all? Not at all.
No, I unfortunately I get this question a lot, and I wish I could say that I would be able to successfully make that jump. Mm-hmm. But in all honesty, all I have in terms of like those categories is Star Wars and Potter. I don't have any knowledge in anything else. I love the MCU. I think it's a lot of fun, and I've seen all of them. I've seen some of the other movies that are in these categories, but I'm missing so many of them. I mean, like Middle Earth. I've seen 2 Star Trek movies in my entire life. I've seen each of them maybe twice. Like, it's not a realistic thing for me, I don't think. And, you know, I wish I could say otherwise. You know, maybe there'll be a day where I just like grow totally bored of Star Wars and I'm just like, Star Trek it is, or Middle Earth it is, or all of the above, and see where it goes. But it's not something that I see realistically happening for me anytime soon.
But you had mentioned Potter, so you think you might be able to hold your own in a Harry Potter like exhibition match, maybe, or something?
Oh, I think I definitely could. Yeah, I think I definitely could. There was, I mean, I love watching. I enjoy watching the Inner Geekdom matches, and anytime somebody spins Potter, like I am sitting there like, yes, like and I usually do okay. So I think I could do okay in something like that. That said, I would have liked to have thought that I would do okay in like the Jurassic Park exhibition match, and then I saw some of those questions and I was like, oh no, oh no. Oh, I was not at all prepared for this. I'm glad I did not throw my hat in the ring for that.
Fair enough. Well, you got your tournament coming up. You're gonna face Ace next.
Yeah.
How do you feel that's gonna go?
I like my chances. I gotta be honest. Yeah. I'm excited. I think it'll be. It's been interesting because it was one thing going up against Sean where there really wasn't. I didn't have a ton to go off of in terms of like what he knew and didn't know. He had played one match, and I learned that he had almost no notice that match was happening. So it really wasn't a good basis for me to go off of what does he know and not know. Right. He was a bit of a mystery. I've gotten a little bit more out of Ace. I have a better idea of what he knows and doesn't know, and the types of questions that tend to knock him off. So I think that I feel more confident going into this match actually than I did with Sean, which is interesting. That was an interesting turn of events for me watching his match against Knapsack, because there seemed to be a bit of a shift in question difficulty.
Yes.
And I haven't really been following kind of what other people have been saying, and I really didn't follow the chat all that closely. So I'm not sure if other people are talking about this too, but it's definitely something that I observed, that they seem to be kicking it up a notch a little bit.
I will say that the Star Wars fans that I've talked to behind the scenes all said we all are like, wow, that first round was much much deeper cuts than they usually have, but there's so much surface
Yeah.
before. We could blaze here and get a perfect round almost if you weren't even a huge Star Wars fan. But this, they definitely kicked it up a notch. I'm wondering if that's going to be, is that a response to the talking? Because in general, across the Schmoedown, this season has been more, the first round has been more simpler questions, as it were. That's been talked about. But I wonder if that's actually a response to that, or if it just happened to be a difficult round one. I don't know. I'm interested to see the next match to see how that first round goes. But I feel like you're not going to have any issue with that anyway because you haven't missed a first round question yet. So I'm not going to knock it.
No, I haven't. But I will say that I had a little bit of fear when I said that in my promo. I was like, I don't know if I should even say this because now I have a target on my back, I think. I'm like, they're going to like throw a random like 5-pointer into round one to just like try and throw people off. And I legitimately think that's what they've been doing. Like, I mean, that Ken Lang question in the last match, I was like, Jesus, like that's not a first round question. You know, like I knew it, but which just surprised me when that was in there because that was like, that seemed a little bit out of left field for me, but I like it, you know, like I like that, like throw those random deep cuts in there, like give these people that are throwing everything they have into studying for these matches because you have to, because Star Wars is getting so deep cut. You know, you really don't have any choice. You have to go in with that kind of preparation. So I'll be curious to see how the next match goes. This is going to be, it's gotten really fun. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So I'm excited to see how this continues.
Yeah, there's not many divisions or leagues that has like a minor character, an actor playing a minor character in a movie being like a round one question because stature is not even in it that much. So that's pretty cool. I'm with you on that one. So
yeah, I like it.
This has been an excellent tournament so far. It's been an interesting tournament because every single match feels like that could be a championship match. So I think the Star Wars League has really like leveled up in a different sort of way, especially now that there's an abundance of players. And I also think that it's very great to see that there's definitely a possibility for the finals to be Laura Kelly versus Molly Damon and to have two women coming into the finals and possibly going off for the Star Wars belt. So I think that that's great also.
Oh, I love it. I love that possibility. And I would fully be on board for Andrew DeMolanta getting to eat shit at any occasion. So
wow, nice.
I'm pretty pumped to maybe see that go down. We'll see.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Sort of savor that a little bit. You know, he's so like, let me at it. I just need to like, I need to see him go down, you know? And I would love for it to not be me that has to take him down again.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Eric definitely watches this show, so I'm gonna hopefully he takes that out for a promo. I'm hoping for that. That's a good one. Well, everybody, I think it's time for a little bit of this or that. If you've watched the show before, then you know what this is. I'll be asking Laura two things, and she gets to choose between them. She can either ask for clarification or make up her own clarification, whatever she really wants to do. Some of them will be our standard questions, and some of them will be specifically written for her. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty much all Star Wars because I don't get the chance to talk Star Wars enough, so I'm going to just keep on talking Star Wars as much as I can. So first question we always ask is one I might need to clarify for you as a Star Wars competitor. As you know, Call to Action has been a team action podcast. Andrew Ghai, Ben Bateman. So after the Civil War, we had our own little schism in the Action Army. We have to ask everybody this question now. Are you someone who would be Team Ghai, Team Andrew Ghai, or Team Ben Bateman?
Team Traitor.
We call him Team Traitor. So there's only one right answer.
So here's the thing. I haven't really had a ton of interaction with either of them. So I don't have a ton to go off of, but I've had more interaction with Bateman. So I'll go with that just because of that reason.
There you go.
Well, I'll let you answer that question later on after you talk to Andrew Ghai, our Lord and Savior, a few more times, just so you know. So.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe I would change my mind if I had more interaction with them. I don't know. Like,
but sometimes those are the fun ones. The people who don't necessarily understand where this question comes from.
But we do have it every other. That's our
Sometimes
first
that's
one.
the best one. And that's usually how Ben Bateman gets points, because most people who watch the show know that there is only one right answer.
That's Andrew Guy. But that's okay. We'll let it slide because you're a big Star Wars fan, so
Yeah.
you definitely have earned that. Okay, getting off to something else. You played live events, you played studio events, you played on StreamYard. Which one do you prefer?
God, it's hard to say. They all have like ups and downs. I mean, I think like playing from home is pretty nice, but if I lived in the LA area and I like was closer to all of the action of the actual Schmoedown, like maybe I would prefer the in studio, but because it requires me to like get on an airplane, and to get on the airplane I have to like drink a bunch of alcohol and like take some drugs, and like it's just, to curb the anxiety. So it's just one of those things that I'm like, it's just easier to just do it from here.
Okay.
There's less like mind warping preparation that needs to go into it. But yeah, I not that I don't enjoy, LA and all that it has to offer. But yeah, I very much enjoy just sitting in my bed playing. It's definitely easier.
You do make a fair point. But what about live events? Did you like the live event after you played Spectacular? Despite the outcome, like actually playing as a live event? Was that better?
It's hard to say because the outcome like really scarred the experience for me. But it was fun. It was fun. I like the energy of the crowd. Like Celebration was fun, but at the same time, it kind of like it's sort of, I don't want to say it ruins your Star Wars Celebration experience, but it definitely like, you have to like spend all this time preparing, and then it's like, well, I want to be out on the floor, or I want to be like out at the bars at the after parties, but it's like, no, I have to like I have to stay and study so I won't make an ass of myself on stage. So it was still a lot of fun. I would never change anything about that experience. But I think, yeah, if I had to pick, like this is the way to go,
Right from home.
Okay.
Right with the camera.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, we know you're a Rogue One fan, so this might inform your decision here, but are you looking more forward to the Cassian Andor series, or the Obi-Wan series?
That's a good question, because as much as I enjoy Cassian Andor, he wasn't like the draw for me to Rogue One. He wasn't like the reason that I loved that movie by any means. K2SO was a huge reason that I loved that movie. I love the humor that Alan Tudyk brought to the film, but I think I'm more excited to see, because my podcast co-host Alice is a huge Ewan McGregor fan. I mean, she's a prequelist. She's a prequel apologist. Like, she will defend them until her dying breath. But she's mostly in it for Ewan McGregor. Like, let's be honest. And she just loves him. So I think that I'm really kind of more excited to watch her watch the show, the Kenobi show, than I am to see the Cassian Andor show. That said, I feel like the Cassian Andor show there's a better chance that I'll get some sort of like Rebels tie-in, which is just the sort of thing in this life that I live for, is to just any Rebels tie-in anywhere in any medium. I'm just living for it. So it's hard to say it's this or that, but I'm just really excited to watch Alice watch Kenobi. She's just gonna get such a kick out of it. I can't wait.
Fair enough. Speaking of Rebels ties in and Clone Wars ties in, Mandalorian season 2, we do know that Tamir Morrison was cast. Would you rather see him play Boba Fett, or would you rather see him play Captain Rex?
I would rather never see Boba Fett in anything ever again. So I'm definitely going Captain Rex. Like, I just could not care less about Boba Fett and his story. Just leave him in the Sarlacc pit. I mean, Jesus, let it die. Like, come on.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's just me. I know that there are hardcore Boba Fett stands out there, and that's fine. Like what you want to like. Boba Fett's not for me. I never cared for him.
I never was a huge fan of him, but I almost want to see him I'd like to see him made so I do care about him, if that makes sense. I'd like to see a story that makes me care about him more, to justify it in a way.
Oh, that makes sense. That's justifiable. But I just think it would be so cool to see Rex in live action. I mean, who doesn't want that? Like, come on.
There you go. You know what? Why not both? He could probably do both. There you go.
That's true. That option is available.
If we go there, okay. How about I got two or three more we'll do. How about this? It's actually informed because of us what we talked about before. Are you wine or whiskey?
I'm not a whiskey fan. Definitely
Not a whiskey fan. Definitely wine fan. Okay.
Yeah. I can't drink whiskey. I wish I could be one of those girls, but I'm not.
That's fair enough. Okay. Clone Wars or Rebels?
Rebels.
Rebels still. Okay. I was wondering if we started off Rebels, maybe watch Clone Wars and it changed, but that's cool too.
Oh, season 7 was fantastic. Overall, I just have a deeper connection to the Rebels characters.
Makes sense. If that's when you got into first, that's what usually happens. That's how it usually happens, right? So
yeah.
Okay. How about Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker?
Oh God.
Ooh.
I'll take the gun. Neither. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
I'm not in it. I'm just not in it for either of them. I guess Anakin. Anakin's cool in the Clone Wars. I'll take him in the Clone Wars, but Luke Skywalker's a punk bitch. So.
Yeah, I got that. I'm not one to argue that.
A lot of people off with that, but it's true.
No,
I love it when Paul gets a juicy this or that question, and I feel like that was a juicy one.
I will have to throw it out there. It's funny that I grew up with this friend of mine who we used to go around asking questions to Return of the Jedi. Like, who won that Return of the Jedi battle? Was it Luke or Vader? And I said, oh, well, Luke won, obviously. We're like, no, Vader let him win. And because Vader wanted Luke to turn and everything else. And they got so pissed off at me about it because they were loose little whiny bitch. And Vader really going to take it. I digress, though. But same thing. I get a laugh out of those. I get a laugh out of those people who get very, very heated about their Luke Skywalker. Like Jeremiah Morris. I love you, Jerry. You know that. I love Jerry, but
I'm not sorry. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, small screen Star Wars or big screen Star Wars now? Is it like we're going forward?
Oh, I don't know. God, small screen is so nice because it's just so much more accessible. I was just thinking about this today about how theater, like musical theater needs to be more accessible. And I love that like Hamilton is being brought to like the small screen. So I'm going to go small screen. Not that like going to a movie theater isn't accessible. I guess maybe for some people, you know, a $10 movie ticket isn't, that's fine. But I the small screen, I'll go small screen for accessibility reasons.
I get that.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more I'll ask because I'm actually kind of very interested in this myself. Although I heard Karloff mention something that might change it, but Kevin Feige involved Star Wars or the Taika Waititi Star Wars?
Oh, Taika Waititi is going to be way more fun and funny. 100%. I mean, I'm sure that Kevin Feige will be great. I'm sure it'll be great, but I love what Taika Waititi brings to anything that he touches.
Absolutely.
So I'm here for that. And I have a feeling it's going to be one of those things like The Last Jedi where people were pissed about the opening your mama joke type of thing that was going on there. They didn't understand the humor. They didn't like the humor that it brought to it. And I have a feeling it's going to be like that. People are going to be like, this is not the humor that belongs in Star Wars because it's going to be something different.
Right.
And I can't wait. I mean, I love I love how the humor has evolved in Star Wars films, and I'm excited to see where he takes it. And I think he's the perfect choice to take it in whatever new direction he wants to take it. So I couldn't be more excited for that.
Well, we did get that touch with him directing that Mandalorian episode. That opening sequence with the two stormtroopers was very much like you say, it's a very different kind of humor, but I loved it myself. So I agree with that. Although this is what Christian said too. They said in the chat, it might actually be Kevin Feige producing the Taika Waititi movie. So maybe
that's true. They could. There's a solid chance they may not be two separate things. That totally makes sense.
I didn't even think about that myself. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but when I wrote that question, I had that, and then I was like, that makes sense to me. But I figured I'd use it anyway. All right. Well, that is going to end this or that. You survived this or that. Thank you very much for those fine answers. At this point, chat, we're going to ask you to start throwing in your questions. Is it now going to be questions from the chat? Streamlabs will get priority, of course, and Super Chat will also get priority, of course. They'll go on the screen if we can do it. But we're going to get those questions in for Laura or anybody else on screen, and we'll go from there. But before we do that, I guess we'll talk about we'll plug our show, our network this week. Although I don't know, we haven't talked to Alex about Schmoedown, have we? Do we know if it's going on this week?
I don't know, especially because it is my match that is technically next with Schmoedown. I have not been asked anything yet, so we do not have a date set. I'm sure something will come very soon. So we will get to everyone about Schmobates. I am facing Mr. William Bibiani in the next Schmobates, and then whoever wins that match will go on to play Ben Bateman in the final Schmobates match. That is right. There you go. So there hasn't been a date set yet for mine and Bib's match. And then after that, it will be against Ben Bateman. And then we will crown/belt the winner of the Schmobates tournament for this season.
right.
Alex has done a very good job at that. So if you all have not watched any of the Schmobates, please go back and watch some of those. Those are a lot of fun. Tune into those. Make sure that you watch those live so you can get your vote in and decide who wins these matches and have fun. Yeah.
And also, we also always have Call to Action Live every Sunday where we go through that week's Schmoedown material, Schmoedown matches and events of the week, so to speak. Last week, we talked about the 4 players per faction going to be entering the tournament. We broke that down a little bit, made our guesses on that. Also, and of course, our next 2 chilled actions have been set. We've been doing, I love this. We talk about women in the Schmoedown has been a kind of a topic recently. Strong women in the Schmoedown. We always had Rachel and Clark or some of the head days. We still have some great female competitors, and we are on a big female run on chilled action. We had Laura, lovely Laura this week. Next week, we saw in the chat earlier, we have video Drew. Drew Grant will be on chilled action. That's been a long time coming. She's very excited to be here. We can't wait for that. And then the week after that, we'll have the lovely Sabrina Ramirez on. So that should be another fun time there. And then beyond that, we'll see. We got other.
It'll be fun.
Great lineup. I love it.
Yes, we're excited. We have a good time on this show. So thank you to everyone that is in the chat. Make sure that you get your questions in. If you put in a question for Laura earlier, sometimes we can't see them after a little while. So make sure that you write them back in and we will get anything that we need because we're going to head out soon. So get it in there, y'all. Go, go, go.
All right, so we have our little question elf somewhere behind the scenes, and they are going to bring up questions as they come and let us know. So if you can find some questions now, that would be great. I'll start with the Streamlabs we had earlier.
Yeah,
we did
thank
have a
you.
show there earlier. We did have Megs, who donated and said, what city or event would you want to compete at for your next Schmoedown live event?
Ooh. I mean... The idea of going back out to LA is like not the most appealing to me. It would be great because I would love to see I obviously like now have so many friends out there and it would be great to see everybody, but it's just not my favorite destination. I'm a huge fan of San Francisco. If they want to take the trip, if they want to take the whole thing on the road there, I will look for any excuse to go to San Francisco, mostly because I have a really nice place I can go stay at my cousin's Airbnb. But yeah, I mean, if they come here, like there was talk of Schmoedown coming here in late May or early June of this year before all of the coronavirus started. I'm super pumped for that. Sorry to see that didn't happen. But yeah, no, I mean, despite my fear of flying, I've got drugs, so I'll get on a plane and go anywhere. So it's all good.
Fair enough. Okay. That I will just push and say if you can go to a New York events seem to always be the best ones. That's just my own.
Oh, New York is so fun. Yeah, it's a fun place to visit. I would never live there. It's disgusting, but it's a fun place to visit.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's gross.
It can be. Yeah. Malcolm's Middle Earth Media. What are your feelings on the rise of Skywalker? Okay.
Ooh. So it's sort of evolved. I saw it. God, was it 5 times? It may have been 4 times, 4 or 5 times in theaters. And the 3rd time I saw it, it really grew on me. And I was sort of able to kind of get past my expectations and enjoy it for what it was. And then the 4th time I saw it with my cousins who are like in their 40s and 50s. And they were like, I remember leaving the theater and they were just like, what the hell was that? And they were just like, and I was just like, yeah, you're making really good points. You're making all the points that I thought of the first 2 times I saw it. And then I saw it the 3rd time, I thought it was fine. And now I'm kind of back to square one. So I don't know. There's one aspect of The Rise of Skywalker that I absolutely, hands down, love and will always love. And that is everything that had to do with Kylo Ren Ben Solo. I loved every moment that Adam Driver was on screen. I loved everything that they did with his character. I don't even care that they killed him off. It really didn't bother me. I do identify as a Raylo, but I'm one of the weird Raylos that doesn't care that he died and doesn't. So I'm kind of a weird one in that sense, I think. But for the most part, definitely isn't my favorite of the sequel trilogy. I love The Last Jedi. That's my second favorite Star Wars movie. So The Rise of Skywalker, a lot of pieces of it didn't sit well with me, but I loved the novelization, and I loved all the Ben Solo Kylo Ren stuff.
I like that. That's a good call. I like that one too. I love the voices. That's the one that got me the most. Ahsoka and everybody else.
Oh God, yeah. The voices that I cast were fantastic.
Yeah, that was fun.
You ever see the video real quick? I know I'm getting into the chat now, but you ever see that video somebody made of the ghost that appeared? They made the ghost. They basically filmed the scene. They threw up the ghost in the background. The actual Force ghosts.
I heard about it. I didn't see it. I haven't. It's on my list. I'm sure I have it like saved somewhere in like my bookmarks on Twitter or something. Like, watch this before you record your next podcast. And it's on my list.
It is. It's a cool thing. Oh, we're at my Chicago queen from her friend Abby Friel.
Yay, Abby!
Abby, she's the best.
Dean Morgan, besides the movies, what do you enjoy most of Star Wars? Books, TV, video games, etc.
I kind of mentioned this earlier, but if any mention of any Rebels tie-in, I absolutely live for. So I wasn't like a huge fan of the Alphabet Squadron book that came out last summer, but I was a huge fan of the fact that Hera Syndulla was in it. So I lived for that. Like when that was happening, I was so excited. I mean, like we were talking about on Force Toast, Alice was like, I would never have read this book if you hadn't been so excited to read it. And I'm glad that I did now, but I'm just like, yeah. And that's one of those things that, we kind of balance each other out on our show, is that we do have different tastes. But in terms of books, I think the question was like, what do you love in terms of books? Like Dark Disciple is my favorite Star Wars novel. Lost Stars is a really close second. Dark Disciple is fantastic. It's such a good story and such a good book. And it's one that I only just recently read for some reason. I don't know why I put it. I know why I put it off. I put it off because it was like taking place in the prequel trilogy, which isn't exactly my favorite trilogy, not my favorite period of time, because it's a lot of battles and a lot of war. And I'm just kind of like just get bored. But it's such a good story. Like it's just out of control. Highly recommend.
Nice.
I haven't switched. They made that into, because I know that was from originally a Clone Wars arc that was planned.
Yeah. And you know what? I think it worked better as a book. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm sure it would have been great. I'm sure they would have done a good job with it. But the fact that you get to spend a lot of time in the characters' heads, kind of getting to know what's going on, like I think they did it way more justice as a book. I gotta be honest.
You're not wrong. I would love the idea. I would love the chance to be able to compare. But I get what you're saying on that.
Yeah.
I just started reading Star Wars books, so the first book that I'm reading right now is Lost Stars. I have I have 2 more chapters left in Lost Stars, so I'm almost done with it, and I'm blown away by it because this is my first time venturing into the books. So and then I'm going to read Bloodline next. There's your book from the bookshelf for the episode, y'all.
You can't go wrong with Claudia Gray. You're in a good space right now. I support it.
Is that my suggestion, Dan? Is that what I suggested to you?
Yes.
That's my suggestion. Okay.
Yes. So. I reached out to Paul randomly and I was like, look, I'm in a bookstore right now and I have nothing to do during this pandemic, so please suggest a Star Wars book, and Bloodline was Paul's suggestion. So
it's a good one.
William Harold, what kind of lightsaber do you have?
It's an Ultra Saber. I don't know if I could tell you off the top of my head. It's new, so I got that actually was on my birthday, funny enough. So my birthday was right before my Schmoedown match and my first one against Sean in the tournament, and I had told myself after like that October match that I played against Emilanta, if I win, I will upgrade my sabers and I will get a new one. And I'll get a nice one. Cause I just had like the dumb little toys or whatever. I still have them somewhere, but Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. That little promo that you did, like where you pulled the saber out from behind you, like right there, like where you're sitting in that whole thing. Like, that was so good. I love that so much.
Oh, that was thrilling. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's sitting just off to the left. I can't reach it now, but it's an Ultra Saber. I'm not sure which model it is, but I bought it off of a dude on Facebook Marketplace on my birthday because I wanted a nice saber, and I tried to order one online, and it got stolen either by the post office or like by one of my neighbors or something. Like I got the package and it was empty, and it was the most depressing day of my life. It was awful. But then when I saw that somebody local was selling one, and I had taken the day off of work, I went and picked that one up. I actually bought 2 of them, so I have a second one that everyone will get to see someday. But
nice.
Not for now. I'm gonna stick with that one. I'm liking it a lot.
Very nice. Another stream lab from Megs. Again, Megs, actually, happy belated birthday.
Happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday, Meg.
And so, which Star Wars movie has had the most impact on you personally?
Ooh. I think The Last Jedi did. As much as I love Rogue One, and that was, I think it had a lot to do with shaping me as a Star Wars fan, the sort of message and everything, I think that I got out of The Last Jedi is really what stuck with me and what meant the most to me. And it's one of those that every time I watch it, like that scene with Yoda and Luke, where they're talking about failure and how, we are what they grow beyond, like that. Oh God, it just kills me every time. And I think at the time that I saw that movie, it was like one of those things where I was at in my non-Schmoedown life and in my work life, I was sort of a new manager. Like I had a direct report, and that was sort of a fairly new experience for me. And that it just really spoke to me. That line in the movie just really stuck to me, and it hit me when I needed to hear it. And I think that's sort of been the movie that's meant the most to me as a Star Wars fan and just kind of as a human.
That's very nice.
Okay, we had a super chat earlier. I can't bring up, it's a little late now, but it was there before from Dagan S. Broad, and he just said, "No offense to Ace, but Laura, you will destroy him."
I'm looking forward to it. I hope so. I think we're set for an upset at some point in this tournament, and I hope it's not me. But I do think that it's going to happen at some point, and I'm excited to watch it go down. But yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be my match against Ace, unfortunately for him.
I don't think so either. I love Ace, but I don't think so. He's not quite there yet. I don't think.
Yeah, same. It's been interesting to see the caliber of players on there, and it's unfortunate for me as sorry, Laura, but like as a swag fan to admit that like I don't feel like Ace is like quite to the caliber as everyone else in the tournament so far. So,
all right, got another one. Ross Bristow wanted to say, why is 2 called Attack of the Clones? Because 0 attack. I guess you do have the clones do battle the droids, right? That's technically attacking, right?
Yeah, the Battle of Geonosis. There's some attacking going on there, I think. Yeah. They attack the clones, I guess. Yeah. I never even thought about that. That's kind of funny.
We did have one more super chat, then I'll get back to our regular questions. Let's get ready to talk Schmoedown podcast. It's either going to be Shug, Justin, or Ferris. Most likely Shug, as we love. Big fans of that, and big friends of them. They say,
Likewise.
Hey Laura, can you give us your thoughts on Star Wars Resistance from the Bearded Guys?
Oh, I don't have a lot of thoughts because I really haven't seen it. Because okay. I think I got 7 episodes in and gave up. That show wasn't made for me, and that's okay. There are some Star Wars that aren't made for me as an adult fan, and I have learned to accept that. And that Star Wars Resistance is one of them. I just couldn't get past any of it.
It's very much XD before. This is even lower than XD, basically. Although I will say, the end of season 1, which I did get to the end of season 1, the end of season 1 actually has some good moments in it. But I've heard
that, and I've heard that there's some sort of fun stuff in season 2. as well. And I like that they took some of the characters a little deeper, and we got to know, like, I mean, we did recaps on my show. So Alice actually took that bullet and watched them, and then did the recaps. And then I just got to be like, wait, they did what? They went into a weird forest cave. What is that? Like, I mean, that kind of stuff. Like it was me getting to ask the questions while she was just like, I don't know. I watched it while I was drunk, so I'm not sure. And it was, it was an interesting experience, but it's one of those things that I just wish I could have forced myself to watch it. I just don't want to. So I'm not going to.
I still have season 2 like held somewhere. I'm like, maybe I'll get to it someday, but who knows? And that's bad for me because I used to watch everything too. So, but we'll have to see. Okay. A little background elf. We have any more questions? There you go. Hobbit F. Andy. Hi, Laura. What's it like being so fucking awesome? That's a good question.
I like that question.
It's exhausting. No, it's fun. I love it. It's, it's one of those things that it comes with the territory of being part of corruption. You have to be awesome, or you just have to get out. So I really didn't have any choice in the matter, to be honest. So here we are.
You've adapted well, my friend. You have adapted well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jillian immensely. Laura, can we still go out for drinks next time you're in LA, despite all our Twitter feuds? Because hashtag corrupted you.
Yay, Jillian! Absolutely, yeah. If somebody forces my hand and gets me out to LA again at some point, we were, like I said, I actually have friends out there now. I have people I can like hang out with and talk to, and yeah, I remember like before. I think it was the day before the match against Sean. I sent her and Sean a message, and I was like, "This is the time where we would normally like go out for like dinner or drinks or something, just like one last hurrah before the match, and we can't do that, and I'm really sorry that we can't do that, but cheers anyway." And yeah, so someday we'll get to make up for it, and I look forward to that day.
Maybe even December. Maybe we'll have to say December. Expect
we got to keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, next. Ben Rainier, Mr. Ben Rainier, the Media Sweaties Network. Who would you prefer to play, Sam Witwer or Alex Damon?
Oh man, I am on a quest for revenge against Alex Damon. I like that. It's hard. It's a hard call because I would love to play Sam Witwer because I'm fairly confident I could beat him. Like I know,
nice.
I think that I know that he knows his stuff, but it's like, does he have the time to sit and study and prepare for something that is of the caliber that we are all having to play at in these matches? I don't think he is. I don't think he's prepared for something like that. Like 4 years ago, that it would have been a different story, right? And it was a different level of questions that we were getting. But I don't think that maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he'll come back someday and he'll prove me wrong. But at the point in time that we are now, I don't think that he would hold up.
Okay. It would be
interesting. It would be interesting to see Witwer come back, but I do think that that would be an excellent match to see, and I'd love to hear you to hear that from you, that your confidence in that, because we saw Witwer blow through a lot of stuff in this whole division, so I love that.
I mean, anybody who can talk to Dave Filoni about continuity and hang with him is definitely someone who's worth fighting or worth matching up against, so to speak. But I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, you can know all you want. You can know everything about continuity, but can you pull it in the situation? Can you pull the deep cuts? Do you know the behind the scenes stuff? That's the kind of stuff that's important in matches like these. And I think he would be a big question mark as to how well he would do, to be totally honest. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's out there maybe he's the one writing all the pub trivia questions or all the virtual trivia questions that every trivia company that's ever existed is doing right now online. I don't know, who am I to say? I don't know anything. I don't know Sam Witwer or anything about him, but
I wouldn't have asked him.
I don't know. When he was playing, because I just recently watched some of his matches. Recently, I was trying to watch because I was expecting to play Ken Knapsack, so I was watching some of his old matches, and I the caliber of questions. It was just a different level, man. It wasn't the same as it is now, and I just don't know if he could hang. I got to be honest. Maybe, but I don't feel confident in his chances of being able to to hang in the sort of caliber of questions that we are getting these days.
Fair enough.
I love that.
Got next question. Merc with a movie blog. How does it feel to know that when you beat Ace, you'll be the second person to ever win 3 Star Wars matches?
That
True?
will feel sweet. And I will be so freaking mad if that's not the case, because think about the alternative is that he walks in here and walks away with 3 wins. What the actual hell? Like that just would not be right. It would not be. I won't stand for it. I just won't. I mean, can you even I would just, oh God, I'm getting angry thinking about it. I feel like that in Clue where I'm just like flames on the side of my face. Like I just would be so freaking angry. So yeah, there's just no way. I won't allow it. I won't stand for it.
Deep breaths. Cleanse.
No, for someone who's first time coming into the Star Wars League versus Laura Kelly, who has actually competed for a belt to achieve that over Laura Kelly would be.
Oh, I swear to God, man, I just can't. I can't even fathom it. How dare that person bring that? God, no, no.
Big shout out to Merc with a movie blog hanging out with us. Thank you so much.
All right, next, Dean Morgan. What fan base were you most attached to before The Force Awakens? Oh, that's an interesting point.
Oh, I really wasn't. There really wasn't anything before that for me. I just I mean, I guess in fandom outside of Star Wars, it was Harry Potter. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking like in Star Wars, and I'm like, well, there wasn't anything in Star Wars before Force Awakens as far as I'm concerned, but it was definitely Potter for me for a long time. There would have been a time where I could have, if there had been like a Harry Potter league in this game, like I could have hung with that group when I was like 17 years old. Like that was a long time ago. So that was pre, I think, Schmoedown existence. But that was it for me. And I've gone through sort of other fandoms, like that BBC Sherlock show. That was a big thing for me for a long time. But that fandom was hard to stick with because it was like 3 episodes every 3 years or something crazy.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of what else there's sort of been. Those are the ones that come to mind. Like BBC Sherlock and Harry Potter were big ones for me.
Really quick, Laura, you and I feel like you and I are both around the same age. Like, were you ever around in like the Harry Potter live journal days?
No, I was a MuggleNet girl. I don't know if that was like a different fan site or was that fan fiction or something?
No, well, LiveJournal was just basically like an online journal site, but it had all of like these different communities that were part of it. But like there was this big Harry Potter community inside of LiveJournal where like different groups, and I can't even think of how to explain it. But okay, that's all.
Oh, that's funny. No, I missed out on that. But I was like addicted to MuggleNet. I followed that site every day. Yeah.
Do you have a Star Wars site you go to now? Like a message board, anything of that nowadays that you go to at all?
Not really. No, I'm all about Twitter. It's just, that's kind of where I find all my stuff, all the rumors. I follow enough people that I get enough, I give a fairly comprehensive news feed in terms of things I need to know and rumors I need to know just from Twitter. So there isn't really one site that I follow over the other.
Fair enough. We do have a super chat from the French Taunter. Laura, are you preparing to beat your opponent or the question writers? That seems to be the difference.
Wow. That's an amazing question. And that's an amazing way to come at it. Definitely. I mean, you have to you really do kind of have to think about it that way and try and get inside the question writers' heads. It's really, that's the much bigger, I think that should probably be every player's strategy, is like anticipating the questions in that fashion rather than trying to anticipate your opponent's weaknesses. I mean, I think you need both, but part of anticipating the questions and getting there in the question, that just comes from experience, and that just comes from playing these matches over and over again. And whether you're playing along or you're playing live or you're actually in the room and you're the competitor playing, I think you really have to, that's a big thing, is trying to anticipate. And you really can't. It's just the minute you think that you have it, they're going to throw a curveball at you. Like that's how it's been with this tournament, where you're going to get a random behind the scenes or a random 5-pointer thrown into round 1, and it's just going to come out of nowhere. So it's one of those things that it's really hard to it's hard to prepare for these types of things. You just never really know what you're going to get, and you just have to try and be prepared for all of it. But then when you do that, then you focus in on things you don't need to be you got to find the balance there. So it's rough. None of us have an easy task at this, and I will say that Josh and Ace had the hardest time of it coming into it with like 2 weeks heads up that this tournament was even happening, and then they had to play.
Right.
So I'll give them props for that. That's rough. Especially since we're sort of seeing a different style, a different caliber of questions like that. They had the hardest task ahead of them coming into it, I think.
Fair enough. We got some more. Robert Adams, what is the best way to answer movie trivia questions? Sober, drunk, or stoned?
Oh, God. It's not stoned. I can tell you that. Yeah, that's not the answer. I don't know, like Alice and I, we drink in our show while we're recording. We don't get like wasted. I mean, we're like 1 or 2 beers, 1 or 2 glasses of wine. And usually I can still hang and still answer. Like we do trivia in every episode of our show, and I can still answer them usually for the most part. Sober's tough too, though, because then you're like, it can be a little shaky, but that's probably your best bet. The answer is definitely not being caffeinated, because I've found that's like, then you're really like shaking and you really can't keep doing that. It's really hard to hold a whiteboard up in the view of the screen and try and write while you're like caffeinated and shaking. I'll say that, but yeah, no, sober is probably the way to go. Safest option.
Probably the as well. Eric Frederick, loved Eric Frederick from the Action Army. Would you have preferred Rebels to have been live action? I know I would have.
I don't know. I think it's hard to even wrap my mind around it, because when you think about what kind of budget they were working with, it's like it just would not have been realistic at all. And who knows what kind, like we could have gotten something so much worse if they hadn't, I think, gone animated with it. So it's hard to say, but I don't know. I like Star Wars Squadrons is the trailer that just came out, the game, and it's not live action Hera, but it's a different style of animation that you're seeing of that character. And I'm kind of like, that's different. It's fine. Like, I don't mind it. There's going to be different interpretations, especially if we ever do see the character in live action. There's going to be different interpretations of it. Yeah. It's not going to look the way that I'm used to seeing it,
right?
Or the way that I want to see it. And I'm open to that. Like, same goes with Ahsoka Tano. If we see that character live action, people have to be prepared for the fact that it is not going to look how you thought it was going to look in your head. It's not going to look like the animated character. It is going to be a different interpretation. And it's gonna be fine. Like everyone just needs to be cool and be chill with it. It's fine.
And I'm sure they all will be. There'll be no argument. There'll be nobody upset about it at all, I'm sure.
No one's gonna argue or bitch about it on Twitter. Definitely not. It's gonna be totally fine. No. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars Rebels, so it's hard for me to imagine it any other way, because I love it for what it is, genuinely. So I think I would probably just keep it as is, but to each their own. It'd be cool to see live action Ezra, Kanan, whomever. Definitely awesome to see live action Thrawn. I would love that. Ooh, but yeah. But I love Rebels, and I wouldn't change it.
I'd love to see a live action Hondo, to be honest with you.
If you've been to Galaxy's Edge, you've seen a live action Hondo.
Surely, I loved it. I loved every second.
Yeah, yeah, it's dope. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. Jeremiah Morris, did you get excited when Caleb Dune was in the Clone Wars?
I did. I was excited, but I'm glad that I didn't get more excited than I was and expect too much of it, because I think people will be like, oh, what if they show like Order 66 from Depa Balaba's view with Kanan? I'm just like, they're not going to do that. They did it in a comic. They're not going to do it because they've already done it. So I wasn't expecting that. And I'm glad that I didn't raise my expectations to that level. And I was fine that they did a little nod to Rebels in season 7, and I'll take it.
Fair enough. Speaking of animated series, I'm going to sneak this in here. Would you like to see, I want to see an animated series of Luke and Ben together building up the Jedi Order? I think that'd be so sweet. Getting Mark Hamill. It would be cool. Mark Hamill to voice a young Luke in a way. I don't know. That's just my own thing. So, all right. Next question. Ryan Kramer, Laura loved the change to Lights Out, as it used to sound like many people were saying Luminous Laura Kelly instead of the Luminous, a noun. Can you explain where Luminous came from?
It's pretty simple. I think that was, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. That was a Christian Harloff poll. Or maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but he's the one who informed me, this is your nickname. And I was like, okay. And it was 30 minutes before I went on stage at the, in the studio match, and had to play my match against Andrew. So yeah, it was kind of just like, I don't know. There's so many other things happening right now. Like do you need my approval? Do I need to sign? Whatever. Like, it's fine. I don't fully know where it came from. I wasn't part of the decision to make that my name. I liked it. It was cute. It was kind of Star Wars-y. I love that it sort of felt Star Wars-y in the name. But I'm much more comfortable in the role I'm in now. I'll say that.
Lights Out. I get that. I like that. Got one more. Taken as broad, do you think we'll see Disney make an episode 10, 11, and 12 in the next 15 years?
Yeah, I would guess it'd be sooner than that. I would go, okay. Yeah, I would go less than 10 years.
Less than 10 years. Do you want that?
I don't know. Here's my thing is that I think obviously it's dependent on Daisy Ridley, right? And 5 years doesn't feel like enough distance. That doesn't feel long enough. But 10 years feels too long to the point where people won't care anymore. Not that they won't care anymore, but I feel like people will sort of fade away from the Star Wars fandom, or at least a portion of them will. So 5 isn't long enough. 10's too long. I'm going to go like 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they could be drawn back at that point. That is enough time to get away from it. We still have the Mandalorian and the smaller stuff, and maybe the Feige movies and what else we do there. But the only thing I ask, and like I know Christian mentioned, other people mentioned it, just have a plan this time. Just have like a trilogy plan.
Oh God, yes. God, yes. Right?
That's what happened in the sequel trilogy.
Were we all thinking the same thing? Like, I mean, at the end of it, because I was one of those people that people would be like, do you think they have a plan? And I'd be like, of course they have a plan.
Yeah, that's
you don't pay $4 billion for something and not have a plan. Of course they have a plan. Why would you even ask me that? That's so stupid. And now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, they paid $4 billion for something and they didn't have a plan. Oh my God.
How would you do that? How could you? I mean,
like, I can't even fathom paying $1 million for something and not having a plan. Like,
exactly. Like, I mean, people could knock the prequels all they want, whatever. George Lucas had an idea. This is where I'm starting. This is where I'm finishing. You need that in a trilogy. Otherwise, it's not a trilogy. Why are you having a trilogy that way?
Yeah. Or have a plan.
Either have a plan or just do standalone movies. And that's fine, too, if you want to do standalones. I get that. Let directors take on their own thing. Give me a Denis Villeneuve Star Wars, just a random one-off. Give me even a Chris Nolan. I don't know, anybody like that. But, like,
sure.
But if you have a trilogy, give me a plan. So there you go. Exactly. A planned out trilogy with Favreau and Filoni at the helm. Yeah, that would make a whole lot of sense to me. So
that'd be cool. I'd be down.
All right. Is that it? Do we have any more questions there? Oh, that's it. Okay, I'm getting to know that is it. So I guess that's where we'll wrap up our show tonight. Laura, why don't we let you plug where you are at and where we can find you outside of here?
Sure. Follow me on Twitter for fun Star Wars silliness. It's at @shutup_Laura. And my show is at Force Toast Pod. Like Force Ghost, but toast. And then I do a little bit of writing on our blog, which is forcetoastpod.com. You can find that there. And you can also find all the places that you can listen to our show. There's a full list. We're on, iTunes. We're at all the big ones. And yeah, the Schmoedown match that I play next is July 1st. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. I think it's going to go well, if I had to guess.
Me too.
Can I ask, actually, where your Twitter handle? Can you explain that? I've always wanted to know that, actually.
It's a stupid story. So it's I was a big fan of the show 30 Rock when that was on. Okay. And one of the writers on that show, his name is John Lutz, and his Twitter handle is Shut Up Lutz. And it's a common expression on the show 30 Rock is Shut Up Lutz. And so when I was making my Twitter in 2012, that was top of mind. So there you go. It's not that interesting of a story.
Are you excited for the new episode that they're gonna do?
I am very much. I'm excited. I love. I
too.
live and die for anything Tina Fey does. Anything she touches, I'm fully here for. So I'm excited.
I
Right.
loved 30 Rock. I very, very much enjoyed that show. So I'm super pumped for that. This is very nice to hear.
Yay! It's great.
Yes. Well, that is it for us on Chill to Action. Laura, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Monday night. Thank you so much to everyone hanging out in the chat. We really appreciate all of your questions for tuning in. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, Paul, really quickly, where can we find you?
At Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me on here every week with my lovely co-host, my work wifey, Danny. You can find me on the Action Industries YouTube channel, Ben and Drew's channel. I do a weekly show called Class Action, where I put up two things up against each other, two movies, whatever, and we discuss and break them down in 5 custom-made categories. And finally, I also opened up my own YouTube channel called PLD Projects. I've done a show on V, the 80s sci-fi franchise I love. I will be starting the Harriston soon, where I go through all of Ed Harris's filmography. I will make you love him like I do, or I will die trying. And finally, I might decide to go live tonight, PLD Projects live hang I do every once in a while with friends from the Action Army. So look out for that on Twitter. I'll post it if I do. And that's it. That's it for me.
Yeah, and you know me. You can find me on Twitter at DannyJoy, DANNDANIEEJOY. You can find me there as usual and here every Monday. Thank you all so much to everyone in the chat and from everyone in the Action Army. As always on this Monday, we salute you.
All right. You know what? I have one thing. I do have our elf is invited, so we're going to show
This is why we can't.
Little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird won't sing, Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring.
Wow.
Nice.
That was nice. I never actually had a chance to see that. They actually finished our team, our crack team finished that, I guess, during the show, and that's how we're debuting it. So next week will be Video Drew. So
That was scary.
pretty scary for me too. Yeah.
It definitely should be. Again, thank you all so much. We'll see you next week. We'll see you soon.
We salute you.
Salute. Bye. Merp. Merp.